Thank you for joining me for this multi-part series. Today in episode 1, we're going to be planning, excavating, digging, and pouring the foundation of our new patio. When we initially conceived the project, we wanted to maximize the use of our backyard. It wasn't very big to begin with, and the existing lanai was really too small. We figured that we would come out about 20 feet and go the length of the back of the house, which was 44 feet. The existing lanai was already screened in, and while we did use it, it's really too small to do anything. As you can see, by the time you put a table and some chairs, and a few more chairs, and a fire pit in there, there really wasn't even room to walk around. By removing the existing screen and pushing everything out an additional 20 feet, we would really have a lot of room to enjoy everything year-round. Once we determined what the dimensions were going to be, we used a mini excavator to do the grading, allowing 4 inches for the depth of the concrete, as well as a slight pitch so water would drain away from the house. I flew over the house with my drone to help put the size of the patio in perspective with the rest of the house. Plus, it looks pretty cool. No matter how much care you take and how much machinery you have, you still have to do stuff by hand. In this particular case, in addition to the 4-inch deep concrete pad, you have to dig a 6-inch deep by 6-inch wide footer for this permit. The depth of the footer is to support the weight of the aluminum lanai or cage that's going to be put over the entire back patio. The new concrete pad is going to have to be physically joined to the existing concrete pad, and for that you use rebar. For this project, we used number 5 rebar. We used a hammer drill and drilled holes in the concrete base of the house, and then used a special fast-setting epoxy to glue the rebar into the side of the house. The other end of it extends into the concrete pad that's getting ready to be poured. This will tie the 2 pieces of concrete together mechanically. Here you can see Steve drilling holes in the side of the house. The screened-in area is going to have a door on both ends. This is the 4x4 door pad that was framed up. And here is that blue epoxy that's used to glue the rebar into the side of the house. In this case, we drilled every 24 inches. You have to work quickly because the glue sets up in about 60 seconds. So after the holes were drilled, we blew them out with compressed air and got the rebar ready to put in. We also dug down 6 inches in this particular 10x10 area because that's where a hot tub's going to go. When it's full, it weighs about 3,000 pounds, so the extra 2 inches of concrete will give it some more support. The rebar is placed in the center of the 6x6 area that's dug out for the footer, and then it's all wired together and placed on little stands to keep it suspended in the middle of the concrete. Otherwise, it would just be at the bottom and wouldn't really be structurally helpful. When the house was originally built, the owners had installed an outdoor shower. There was really no place for the water to drain, so when we pour the concrete, we're going to put in a drain and run it out to the side. Judging from the paint chips on the floor, the concrete had been painted 4 previous times. There was also a series of holes that were put in the concrete because there used to be storm shutters here, although they were not here when we bought the house. There were also some minor cracks that were on the paint that didn't affect the structural integrity of the concrete. All of this paint is going to have to be removed prior to us pouring the new concrete. It's going to require several gallons of paint stripper, some scraping, and also some power washing. Next, it was time for the existing aluminum screen to go. I got out my tools and I went to work. After removing about 100 concrete screws and cutting the old caulking with a utility knife, a gentle pressure was all it took Once I got that part removed, I went to work on the other side. For some reason, the door took twice as long as the large wall I just removed. After the old aluminum was removed, we put down 2 or 3 gallons of paint stripper and let it sit for a few minutes before we started scraping. After scraping for quite some time, it was time to break out the power washer to see if that was going to make things work any better. It turned out that it was a huge help, but it still took several hours to get all the old paint removed. The concrete is going to be delivered tomorrow, so we make final checks on the elevations to make sure everything is square and level. Here Steve is running a mason line and a level across various parts of the slab to make sure that everything is a uniform 4-inch depth. You can see some places it was a little high, so once again, there's shoveling involved. Everything is checked one last time, and then tomorrow is concrete. Finally, the day arrives and they pour the concrete. They're using a pumper because it's a lot easier than pushing a wheelbarrow from the front yard to the backyard. As they float the concrete, they're constantly checking the level to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. The next morning, the concrete has hardened up enough for us to walk on. Steve and I are marking out the locations of the control joints. This is where he's going to use a concrete saw and make cuts on the chalk lines to control where the concrete will crack. Here's another shot with my drone showing the concrete after it's been poured, as well as the location of the control joints. Since I was out flying around with my drone, I figured I would get some footage going north and south. And one last low-altitude flyover. As the concrete dries over the next few days, it will turn from gray to bright white.